Good afternoon. Today we are going to discuss about an IoT project. But first, let me introduce myself. Hi, my name is Priyanka Gupta. I am from NSHM Knowledge Campus. I am currently on my 7th semester and this project is built under the guidance of Team Emertxe. So, let's discuss the contents. First, we will talk about the things I learned from the internship. Second, we will talk about the project requirement. Third, we will talk about the softwares used and how they are implemented in the project. Also, we are going to discuss mini projects along the way. Last but not the least, we will dive into the mega project. So let's get started. C programming. Now, what is C programming? It's a general purpose language created by Dennis Ritchie in 1970. Softwares like operating system, databases, compilers, embedded softwares, OS kernel system, firewares are all created by C language. Since computer does not understand basic human language and its universal language is in binary. C language takes that role of translating the human language into the computer language with the help of compilers. It is a pre-formatted language and it is used to give a set of instructions to the computer. So, what I learned about C programming in this internship, I learned about the anatomy of simple C code. I learned about the number systems in C like decimal, octal, hexadecimal, and binary. I learned about the data representation like bit, byte, integer, number, both positive and negative. I learned about the basic data types like int, float, double, and char and its modifiers. I learned about the conditional constructs, if else and switch. I learned about loops, for, while, and do while. I learned about operators, logical, relational, assignment, and bitwise. I learned signed and unsigned numbers. I learned about arrays and pointers, functions, strings, library functions, memory segments, stack, heap classes, and storage classes, both internal and external. I learned about preprocess header files like include, macro headers like hash define and their use case. Introduction to C++. So, what is C++? C++ is an extension of C programming created by Danish computer scientist. C++ is where object-oriented programming, or generally known as OOPS, comes into play. So let's talk about OOPS in C++. As the name suggests, OOPS uses subjects in programming. Object-oriented programming aims to implement real-world entity like inheritance, hiding, polymorphism, etc. in a programming. The main aim of OOPS is to bind together the data and the functions that operate on them so that other part of the code can access this data except that function. Class. It is the building block of C++ that leads to object-oriented programming. Is a class. It is a user-defined data type which holds its own data members and member functions. which can be accessed and used by creating an instance of that class. A class is like a blueprint for an object. For example, consider the class of cars. There may be many cars with different names and brand, but all of them will share some common properties, like all of them will have four wheels, speed limit, mileage range, etc. So here, car is the class and wheels. Speed limits, mileage are their properties. A class is a user-defined data type which has data members and member functions. Data members are the data variables and member functions are the functions used to manipulate these variables, and together these data members and member functions define the properties and behavior of the objects in a class. In the above example of class car, the data member will be speed limit, mileage, etc. And member functions can apply brakes, increase speed, etc. Object. An object is an identifiable entity with some characteristics and behavior. An object is an instance of a class. When a class is defined, no memory is allocated, but when an object is created, memory is allocated. Objects take up space in memory and have an associated address like a record in Pascal or structure or union in C. When a program is executed, the objects interact by sending messages to one another. Each object contains data and code to manipulate the data. Objects can interact without having to know details of each other's data or code. It is sufficient to know the type of message accepted and type of response returned by the objects. IoT. What is IoT? Internet of Things is a network of physical objects or people called things that are embedded with softwares, electronics, network and sensors that allows these objects to collect and exchange data. The goal of IoT is to extend to internet connectivity from standard devices like computer, mobile, tablet to relatively dumb devices like a toaster. IoT makes virtually everything smart by improving aspects of our life with the power of data collection, algorithm, AI and networks. The thing in IoT can also be a person with a diabetes monitor, implant, an animal with tracking devices, etc. This IoT tutorial for beginners covers all the basics of IoT. How IoT works. The entire IoT process starts with the devices themselves, like smartphones, smartwatches, electronic appliances like TV, washing machine, which helps you to communicate with the IoT platform. Now in this IoT tutorial, we will learn about four fundamental components of an IoT system. 1. Sensors or devices. Sensors or devices are a key component that helps you to collect live data from the surrounding environment. All this data may have various levels of complexities. It could be simple temperature monitoring sensor, or it may be in the form of the video feed. A device may have various types of sensors which performs multiple tasks apart from sensing. Example: a mobile phone is a device which has multiple sensors like GPS, camera, but your smartphone is not able to sense these things. Connectivity. All the collected data is sent to a cloud infrastructure. The sensors should be connected to the cloud using various mediums of communications. These communication mediums include mobile or satellite networks, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, WAN, etc. 3. Data processing. Once data once that data is collected and it gets to the cloud, the software performs processing on the gathered data. This process can be just checking the temperature reading on devices like AC or heaters. However, it can sometimes also be very complex, like identifying objects using computer vision on video. 4. User interface. The information needs to be available to the end user in some way, which can be achieved by triggering alarms on their phones or sending them notification through email or text message. The user sometimes might need an interface which actively checks their IoT system. For example, the user has a camera installed in his home. He wants to access video recording and all the feeds with the help of a web server. However, it's not always one-way communication. Depending on the IoT application and complexity of the system, the user may also be able to perform an action which may create cascading effects. For example, if a user detects any charges, any changes in the temperature of the refrigerator with the help of IoT technology, the user should be able to adjust the temperature with the help of their mobile phone. Advantages of IoT. Key benefits of IoT technology are as follows. Technical optimization. IoT technology helps a lot in improving technologies and marking and making them better. Example, with IoT, a manufacturer is able to collect data from various car sensors. The manufacturer analyzes them to improve its design and make them more efficient. Improved data collection. Traditional data collection has its limitations and it's designed for passive use. IoT facilitates immediate action on data. Reduce waste. IoT offers real-time information, leading to effective decision making and management of resources. For example, if a manufacturer finds an issue in multiple car engines, he can track the manufacturing plan of those engines and solves this issue